Greetings, greetings, greetings. You are now tuned into the Vault. Trust Christian own nothing, control everything. Just want to thank you for tuning in live, listening to the replay. This is the Vault, episode 394. I own. Definitely want to do this episode today because so many people have asked, and this is just a rather important topic throughout the year. So, this is the Vault, episode 394. I own. Dot dot dot. Definitely want to do this episode. It's one of those things that obviously this is a program that's been programmed into people to make you think you own something on this planet. In turn, it puts you in some type of obligation because you're responsible for it. So let's talk about it. Trust Christian, own nothing, control everything. So if you're supposed to own nothing, control everything, I own is the term that certain and particular people use, and in turn they incur liability. So this isn't intended to be legal advice, financial advice. It's never that. This is the conversation of entrepreneurs and what we even call investors, what we call founders. But we're going to talk about it today in the public, which is I own, this term that, quote unquote, the term of endearment. I own a house. I own a car. I own a ring. I own jewelry. I own property. I own, and we could go on and on, etc. But what happens when you just control it? What happens when the President of the United States at one point says, I don't have anything to show you all because nothing's in my name? Maybe he didn't say it directly like that, but you can't hide when you in the public. So it's kind of a coinky where if you're building public businesses, public companies such as a Donald, especially in real estate, it's public disclosure. These are the individuals that get in real estate tell you they get in real estate just for the tax write-off. It's like, what? So where are you really making money at? Where are they really making money at if they're using real estate as a tax write-off, as a depreciating asset? That's what they're looking at it as. At least Donald is. But if he doesn't own anything, why doesn't he have any personal records to show? Because he doesn't own it. But because they're in the public, they can't tell you that they control it only. Why? Because is it an alarm to the public? Not necessarily. But remember, when you in politics, you politic. He's politicking. That's what's going on. That's what's going on. I own. So they sit in the public. We've seen this for years now. Trustees come through the trustee training, your celebrities and all, over there on the public side, saying that they own everything. But no stun knowing is that these individuals are in a control position, telling you, oh, we own this company, we own that company. Why did they keep telling you that? Well, because it's a secret. That's not their business, but they're in trust. That's not their business. It's just a vehicle. It's like a LLC, a C Corp. You think about it, you ask the average entrepreneur what vehicle they use. Some of them may not tell you. Maybe for privacy reasons. But if it's a public company, you can go look it up on the public database. So you're not hiding from anything if it's a public company. So when you say I own something in the public, clearly it's publicly disclosed that you own this company. Where are these companies that they could literally subpoena and say, we're going to court and we're going to see these companies, we're going to see how much money you made on these companies? Well, ladies and gentlemen, if Donald really owned the companies and was receiving a salary, he's filing a 1040 on the social. But is he? No, he's not. Why? Because he's doing business. When you have billion-dollar businesses, you don't have anything in your name. So what makes you think it's any different if you would consider yourself at a lower level? Oh, he's a billionaire. He can't have anything in his name. Why would you do it? Why would you have something in that position? The I own position. We have people coming to the vault for years now talking to us about this I own. Trustees say this is one of the biggest hurdles to leap over, which is I own. It's the conversation. It's I own the company. I own, this company. I own this asset. I own crypto. This is what they say. Yeah, I own crypto. Uh, they don't say they have a company that they manage that owns crypto, but they own it. They own crypto. They own these so-called assets. Okay, they own them. Well, that incurs liability. Now, why is it so critical to be in a position where people say, "Oh, but my whole life I've been told to own something," and some people may say the overtone is that I actually own the mortgage. See, we speak in financial when you talk in financial. It's not legal advice or financial advice, but if you say you own something, that's in a financial endearment. Oh, well, it's not financial. Can you sell it? Then that means it's what? An asset. It's not a liability, it's an asset because you can sell it and make a profit. Some people may have just inherited an asset. They got an asset. They own an asset now. They own property. They own a bunch of different things. They have family property. It could be real estate. It could be various different assets. But when someone says that they own something, they put themselves in a position of what we call liability. We have to call it that. That's a private knowledge base. We know that when you own, you minimize your control and you increase your liability. But where is the I control mentality in the public? That I control the assets. I was going to control the assets, trust Christian in the vault. I was going to act accordingly, trust Christian in the vault. Okay. So how does that look going through trustee training when we talk about it? When we talk about the mindset, when we talk about, you know, what are the various aspects to help someone develop or unprogram themselves or deprogram themselves, whatever you want to call it, to get rid of this program of ownership? Well, own, we go to the control. Why? Because there's different titles in property holding. One of them is legal title, the other one is equitable title. So even when you look at people that have mortgages, they have a legal title and then they also have an equitable title. There's two different titles. And you could look at this across the board, whether it's in trust, whether it's in real estate, whether it's in property in general. You may see someone holding the property with, legal title, paper title. Sort of like even in a public stock company where public company has equity, they're actually getting the money, revenue every single, day, and the stockholders are holding that legal title, that legal obligation that that company is going to give a dividend or a distribution or whatever it's going to be in that respect. So it's interesting to see that these companies or how individuals, quote unquote, or how even families operate from this I own perspective. In the public, when we see it, people own the cars once again, they own the houses, they say they own the houses once again. Um, but when we see the marketplace, we see that this philosophy has not proven father time. When you look at the so-called past kings and queens, whether you want to call them that, or how property was even passed down in the formal English system, you know, it was passed down through. So when we get down to it, you know, property was passed down through not just the families going directly to the children. They were passed down in structures, entities. Why? Because there were structures that were put in place to make sure the family property was held, regardless of whether it was male or female, um, in general. This is almost why you can say, this is why you see people have names named, streets named after them in those countries, specifically in the States for sure, where you have names of streets uh, named after people, not just a random name, but named after people. So we're definitely going to continue to see transitions in trustees' mindset when we talk about the conversation over to trusteeship and getting rid of the own mentality and going more towards the control mentality. I mean, even when you look at it from the founder perspective, the founder's perspective is almost, and this is wild to say, but the tradition of what we've seen so far is most founders end up taking their money and cashing out. Not to say every founder does, but sharp founders are starting multiple companies nowadays. They're cashing out of their positions, so they don't care if they own the company. These individuals are specifically wanting stock in companies. They're looking to take these companies public. They don't own the company clearly if they're the founder and they have a board and they're going public. They don't own the company. Even the stockholders, when they go public, the stockholders pretty much own the company because they have what will be considered the equitable shares to the actual property in general. So, it's going to be interesting to see. It's going to be interesting to see, how things play out with these situations as we see more and more founders taking companies public because it hasn't stopped. We actually saw from our observation at the vault, there was definitely a slowdown late 2015 to maybe 2020 of companies going public. There were companies that were 10 years old that didn't go public yet. To see that was major, but to now see companies now literally within less than a year literally are trying to go public again, we see that these founders are literally almost cashing out again. Founders are going public with their company. The company, it can be valued at $50 billion. It could be valued at $5 billion. But most of the time, we're seeing these extraordinary valuations. We just literally got out of that period. We still see valuations actually correcting and correcting on these companies. Their founders, they start a software company. The company's not around in 3 years, but supposedly it was worth billions of dollars. These companies are not going to be around, ladies and gentlemen. We're in the age of the internet. You all have seen the shakedown. You've seen companies come and go. They don't want to own these companies. The founders, let alone, you see the stockholders are rotating right now. Look where Netflix stock went. You want to own Netflix? Oh, we're going to go long FANG stocks. For some odd reason, right now Netflix is down over 70% in less than a 6 month period. But people say, oh, we're supposed to own it. This is no, promotion of them, no discouragement of that stock. It is talking about the numbers. People say, "Oh, you got to own the companies that you use. Own these companies that you use." That's the tout of the idiot that doesn't know how to actually invest properly. Oh, we're going to invest in this company for a long term because because what? Because this company because we wear this company on our body. This is the financial guru advice out there on the internet. They tell you to own the stocks. The portfolio managers that are controlling assets, they don't talk on the internet about their positions because they don't own a position. It's private. It's to the company. Those are company records. They'll release them when they do a quarterly release of how their performance was over the past 90 days. This is where we are as a marketplace, seeing the I own philosophy promoted in the public marketplace. But once again, trustees go through the transition. They get a dictionary. We had some people recently come to us ask us about that episode. When it comes to the dictionary, the Black's Law Dictionary definitely, uh, it's definitely going to be one of those situations where you have to get your vocabulary in a position where people can have conversations, specifically financial conversations, not just ownership conversations, whether we're talking about control conversations, trustee conversations. These are the things that individuals or families end up eventually getting comfortable with and speaking about it or at least living that lifestyle, more than anything else. So We definitely appreciate everybody tuning in live, listening, replay. We definitely want to do this episode of I Own. This was one of those things that people have come to us for years, asking us this question, talking to us about the I Own perspective, going through the training, saying that it's over, not over, is overwhelming, but they say it's something challenging to get over because they got to get over it. And it's because it's based off association, who you're associating with. How are you having conversations with the right people? Are you having conversations with the right people? That's what encourages the not own conversations and more of the control. Because if you're sitting in front of the bankers and they know you're the trustee and they know that you're in the correct position, how can they ever say you own the assets if you don't own the assets? If the family entities or the business entities own the assets, this business entity is a separate person. But how many people are having that conversation in the public about moving forward and making sure we're the most efficient? Why? Because it's fear. We appreciate everybody for tuning in live, listen, replay. Christian at Trust Christian. Once again, that's Christian at trustchristian.com. Look forward to hearing from y'all. Peace.